SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Let us start this lecture with a thought process, that is nowadays we are doing chemical farming which is unnatural. Unnatural farming can lead to the annihilation of very life on this beautiful earth, as food is the linkage of all lives, because through food all lives are linked. And let us start discussion on the today's lecture by recalling what we had learnt in the last lecture. If you recall that we started with the types of soil in the modern realm, and then we had looked at the various kinds of classification of soil made by our ancestors in the scriptures, based on the odor, color and taste. So, and some of these present day classification are matching well with the ancient one, that is quite interesting. And also one of the soil which I had mentioned last time, which I was having doubt, that is blue soil. But I talked with some other people says that too exist, but it is very rare. That means this blue soil was mentioned in the ancient scripture, not in present day. So, therefore, they had having a lot of observation, and then we moved into the how to quality, improve the quality of seed, how to take care of it. And then today we will be discussing about basically how to sow the seed, sowing method, because sowing of the seed is very important for agriculture. If you look at this S.R. Rao, one of the researcher who had identified the figure of seed drill on an Harappan seal from Lothal region, and if you look at what is that seed drill, that means there might be a hole through which it will be seed will be being sown to the field, and this Harappan practice is known as line sowing method. They were using a seed drills, there will be kind of things. So, that it is a very good thing to have that at the time. Okay. And of course, you can broadcast the seed, but that is not in a very natural way. You can throw the seed scattered around, and if you look at this Harappan kind of things, you can find the furrows reveal a grid of pattern running at the right angles to each other. You might be remembering, I had shown you some figure, we will see that is north south ones having an average distance of 1.9 meter and east west around 30 centimeter, right, kind of things. Let us get into this one, and then we will see that. So, if you look at this, I had shown you this figure. This figure is basically from the Kalibangan, Rajasthan, which is crisscrossing, This is something 1.9 meters around that. If you look at this distance, this is the east west side 1.9 meters kind of thing. This is something 30 centimeter. And modern days also people are using. That means from the Harappan time, Indus Valley civilization, which is around maybe something 3500 BC, I mean the kind of things, and this still existing today, right. So, that is the things what we have written, that kind of agriculture practice. And I am sorry, like I had told you, this is basically north south is 1.9 meter and east west is 30 centimeter. Like you should keep that in mind. So, the current practice at Kalibangan in field suggests what? Suggests a mixed crop, mixed or intercropping kind of things which is being used nowadays also with this advent of new what we call organic farming. Basically it is a natural farming, and natural farming method was basically went from India to other places, now improvised and coming as a organic farming to this country at this moment, right. This is the mixed crop. What do you mean by mixed cropping? Any idea? Let me show you what is that. This is basically if you look at, I can have, this is a furrow and these are the ridges, and there can be onion, it can be sugarcane, and it can be some other kind of things. Together you will be having the cultivation, right. And so also wheat, it may be having some grams, kind of things together. Why you will go for it? Because they will be complementing each other, and also that knowledge is very much essential which will complement each other. That is very important. Beside this, if you go to any forest, you will find there is a very big trees and then there is small tree, various kinds of trees will be living together. Means nature, various kinds of trees and then plants will be having symbiotic relationship, and that is the things what our ancestors had learned, and also we are having that in psychic. That means you should have a symbiotic relationship with among all are connected, right. And that is ethos is very important. Although in modern time we think man is only creature which will live on this earth. No, man is one of them. All are interlinked, and that ethos, that philosophy or the thought process is very important to have, and that is reflected in our ancient agriculture as well, right. And it is going to the Indus Valley civilization. So what I was telling, this horizontal furrows for the sowing one crop and vertical for another, one can think of, and varieties kind of thing. If you go to any natural forest, not man-made forest, today man is making forest, that is a unfortunate, right. It is the nature should make and we should preserve it. You will find 5 layers of the trees which are mixing together. There is a we call it covering, 5 layers of covering. I will be talking about that little bit later on. We call it achadan or mulching, okay. So that our ancestors had observed, and then they were trying to understand the nature and do that. As you look at most of the technology today, even we try to mimic the nature, but we should do in a positive way, not spoiling the nature in the process. So that is the very important point of what kind of technology we need to develop, right, and that philosophy is important. So which I am emphasizing again and again, so that you will not get swayed by the modern philosophy of consume more and produce more, and then disruptive technology. Those things you should not get swayed by. Those are basically market forces who are doing for their own greedy, to satisfy their greed. And what the Rig Veda says, the harness the plough feet on a yoke, now that the womb of the earth is ready to sit therein, right. Rig Veda, I have given this Rig Veda's chapter 10 and 9.23, and of course how to interpret this is Iyer interprets as a sowing. The seeds were either sown in a plough furrows or broadcast, as I told earlier, then covered over by ploughing. Why you will do? Some of you might have sow a seed or a plant, right, or samplings, right, saplings you might have done. And when you do, what do? You put a sow a seed, make a little hole kind of things, or you put the seed and then put the soil on the top of it and then give the water. Am I right? So also for the plant. Why do that? Because that is the things which is very much essential, and this is going on and we are doing it. And that is so that you will give cover to that, and it won't get spoiled, and it will be enough for it to germinate, because you need air, you need not only air, moist air, you need also not very heat, but enough heat to have that temperature to have that, and also the ingredients, you know. So, Iyer interprets that way, covered by the ploughing, and Rigveda 10:10:1-3-4 says, attach the sira, spread apart yolks, right, and sow the seeds into the prepared womb, right, that is being ploughed. When you do plough, you know, I had shown you in a picture that soil will be getting apart and there will be some trench kind of thing, furrow, and which according to J. Bolch, who tried to interpret it, he says serum, sira is basically plural word and serum is a singular, occurring in the passage as the plough used for sowing seed, and it implies that the seed drill plough was used for sowing of seeds. You know, if you look at when you are ploughing itself, you should have a mechanism, you know, first it is ploughing and then, you know, you put the seed there. So, both the work being done, not that, you know, another person has to do, but now it is separated, people are using some machine for doing that. I told it is already carved in our ancient time together, okay. Sometimes you will only plough, sometimes you will plough and also put the seed and it is covered. So, that is a very you know, good techniques of sowing, right. So, in Anguttara Nikaya, like which is a Buddhist text, the expression of Bijani Patitapeti is explained as the meaning of planting of seeds. So, we have already seen in Vedas, now it is a Buddhist text, and in Jain text Naya Dhamakaho, and there is a relevance to 5 paddy grains being sown on the well prepared bed, right. I am not too sure about why 5, maybe some of these together they will be doing, and seedling being transplanted twice or thrice, right. This is transplanted, you know, you will take from one place to other, right. I will be discussing about it later on, and then that is very essential particularly for rice, and which is being, that means this another text which is saying that this is essential to how to have a sowing the seed. The usual practice according to the Satvata Brahmana is again from Veda, was to sow the seed after the field had been ploughed, that means it been ploughed properly and then you will sow the seed. The Panini, you might be knowing, the author of Ashtadhyayi grammar book, which is a very well known, and mention the term bija karoti. What is the meaning of bija karoti? Which is of course sa bijena bilekhanam karoti. See, in Sanskrit word, even our Indian languages, we are having samas. Of course, it is in Hindi, but in other thing you will be knowing. It will give you the meaning, detailed meaning of a word, but unlike the English where you will have to remember, you know, like kind of things. So, this is basically a device by which a cultivator sows the seeds in the line of tilling through a cone attached to the pole of a plough, like means, you know, there should be a whole cone and then you put it, and it is a very nice natural way. The cone, if you will there, it will automatically go down, once it will go, once will be falling down, then it will go, and you will have to give little jerk maybe to do that, you have a control over that, okay. And there is another text Medatithi, basically it is a comments on the Manusmriti. Manusmriti you people may be knowing, that is a very important scriptures in our Indian scriptures, and also refers to a seed being sown with the help of the plough. That means plough is required for putting the seeds on the soil or the land. So, therefore, plough is given very important, it can do a plough thing and also put the seeds, and so that you are having and of course, this is another aspect which has to be taken care, particularly the weeds are to be removed from paddy field between Shravana and Bhadra. These are the month in our Indian calendar, which you people may not be aware, I guess. You may be acquainted with January, February, March or something like that. These are very old calendars, and Shravana and Bhadra. And of course, the Bhadra water means, you know, at that time there is some scanty rains will be there, and should be drained off and be kept out of the roots only for the keeping paddy free from the disease. So, it is that this rain, if it will be there, then you will have to remove, otherwise it will spoil the what we call paddy, particularly it will cause the disease. So, this thing has to be re-looked at, because now there is a climate change. Okay. So, therefore, whether it is right or wrong, one has to see and change accordingly, because always, as I told, the for cultivation 3 things are farmer should know: soil, season and seed, right. So, these 3 S is important. So, therefore, this is season also is important. And as I told, there is a sowing method, there is another one is transplantation, and the term ropana and ropeti occurring in early Pali literature. You might be aware that in Pali language the Buddha's text, most of the Buddhist texts are being written, right, and refers to transplantation. And Kalidasa, which you might be knowing, is a famous poet, and Raghubansam that makes an apt reference to the seedling of sali being uprooted, then transplanted at another place. That means you will have to take one place and do that. So, what is this sali? Sali is a, any idea? Sali is basically a very good quality of rice, or you can call dhan basically, right, and which were at that time famous. Today also it is very much there, but you know, also being sought after. And as I had mentioned earlier, the Krishi Parasar also emphasize on the process in cultivation, and also has had given details of paddy cultivation. It represents a procedure of transplantation, ropana, right. Of course, there is a various verses are there, one has to look at it. It envisages sowing of seeds for transplantation. It classified seed into 2 first type plants which are sown, which are later transplanted. For example, here this person is being planted, now he is taking and making this kind of a bundles, right, to be transplanted. I will show you in the next slide the what is the process of transplantation. And whenever you sow, that means you know that sowing should be free from the defects, right, while sowing. But once this plant and you want to take, you can also check the quality of the plant, what you want to again place it or transplant it. So, therefore, this is also the transplantation is attended with maladies, you know, whatever the problems will be having, that should be set aside, and the right one has to be. That means a person has to have a knowledge about which is right, which is wrong, you know, of course, with the experience. Me and you like that, we cannot really do that, because we do not have experience of transplantation or looking at this thing. So, therefore, it is very important to have that domain knowledge, not only the domain textual knowledge, but the practical knowledge. So, for transplanted seedlings are not to be gathered from full grown paddy plant, as all seedling grown hard in the field, right. It will be not full, it will be small one, and then you can go and put it. And seedlings had to be transplanted 1 cubic, you know, from one another in the month of Shravana. Shravana, you know, it is the rainy season basically, towards the end of Shravana and in the end, right, there is a rainy season, and it should be 1 cubit. 1 cubit, you know, you remember, it is something 0.45 meter approximately, because it is from hand from this elbow to the fingertip is known as the 1 cubit. And half cubit in the month of Bhadra, that means if it is Shravana it will be 1 feet, if it is Bhadra it is half feet, and 4 fingers apart in the month of Ashwini. Now, why it is so? What you know? So, if you look at Shravana, it is little earlier, right? So, that may be the logic, but more scientific studies need to be looked at it. So, therefore, if you give and then if it is a 1 feet you are giving, it may grow further, you know, so that you are having enough space between these things to have a sunshine and other things, right. So, that is the and another important thing that you want to also collect it. For collecting it will be easier, right. Earlier days people used to use their hand and then we use the sickle to cut it and then put it. Nowadays, of course, people are using machine. So, therefore, it should be you know collect properly, cut it and then collect properly, therefore, it might be one reason, but there might be several other reasons. Okay. Agriculture suffers loss due to weeds, that of course, most of us know. Agriculture produce from which weeds are removed becomes very fruitful, very highly fruitful, that means we need to remove these weeds. But there is also mention that these weeds, once you remove, you can actually use for the mulching purposes also, right, and that will act as a manure for the other things. And it is not only about the plants which will be transplanted, it is also the trees can be transplanted. It is, that is mentioned in this text, and this is known as Sankarapana Viropana, right, big trees can be, and after plastering them with their root up to the branches with ghee, usira is a one kind of gram kind of thing, and then sesmum is what we call teal, I think I had shown you a picture earlier, honey and bidanga is a one kind of again seed kind of things, and milk, this is known as kheera, and cow dung. So, if you look at all these materials are available with them and you do that. But let me tell you, recently in IIT Kanpur, people hire some agents to have these big trees to be replanted, and they were saying it is a great success, and then it is the technology has come from outside. Of course, they were using the chemicals and they paid a lot of money also, because we do not have that knowledge, and this has to be also checked whether it is true today or not. This, for example, these ingredients, whether it will be useful or not, nobody are using this today, that is the unfortunate part. Therefore, there is a need to relook at it and check whether this recipe or this methodology what is given here is useful today or not, or is it apt for this work or not, right. That has to be, and they paid a lot of money, and also those chemical what they are using, that may not be the right one, because it may spoil not only the soil but also the tree, right. But whereas these are all natural things. So, therefore, according to my judgment, this may be the better one if it will work for us, right. So, now let us look at this transplantation process. If you look at, these are the small plants of the, let us say it can be any paddy or thing, and these people are making it, removing it from the soil and then making a bundles, and these bundles are taken and then placed. If you look at, there is a distance something given also, but that distance is not having, and is lot of water. Of course, according to me, like water is not the right, although it is easier to plant it, but however too much of water also bad for the plantation or the crop. So, we will be looking at the mulching. Mulching is a word is nowadays being very much used because of popularization of this organic farming. Any idea what do you mean by mulching? Is basically we call in Hindi achadan. In Hindi we call it achadan, means covering, right. The way we cover our body with the cloths, similarly when you do cultivation you will have to cover the soil with something, right, and that is basically layering of agro materials on the surface soil in the field. But unfortunately, particularly the western people and Indian also, because they do not know, Indians today do not think, they just follow. So, therefore, they are using also plastics and other things for the covering the soil, which is not good according to me. When I am saying, I may be wrong, but according to my understanding it is not the right one. So, there are various kinds of mulching you can get, but I will be concentrating only 3 which were there in our text. So, therefore, I will be considering them, but nowadays it has come various ways. So, soil mulching, right, which you do basically when you plow, then you do that with the plowing, will put this soil, topsoil will be removing and then putting it back, and it will be doing. Question is, why you will be having what you call mulching, putting the soil? There are several reasons for that. One of them, it will be making it little passage for the air to move, because air is required, so also moist. So, also the what you call, it will be helpful for the microorganism to take that, and sunlight won't enter into the mulch and heat also it will be not affecting. If it is too much of heat, it will affect the microorganism, because the air is there, air will act as a insulating material, so that heat will not get into that much, right. And it will be helpful for the take some soil mixing it also, right. And straw mulching, which is commonly used, straw or the hay that we use, and which is that can be used for the mulching. You might have seen, if you could have managed to go to a field, even today some portion of our country, they are still leaving the straw there in the field, that is required for mulching. And live mulching is basically by the trees itself. As I told, it is similar to that intercropping or the mixed cropping. You do have, so that they will complement each other, and the shadow of one will be other, so that it will be helpful for the soil to be remain intact, not affected by the heat or not affected by the other things, right. So that is also known as live mulching. So mulching, if you look at this is the picture what I would like to show, it is basically straw mulching here. These are the straw, right, and these are the straw which is used for mulching, okay. And these are the plants are coming, so that weeds won't be allowed to grow in this, because the mulching is there, and then it will cover, and it will help also the earthworm and other insects which are friend of the soil to grow very easily, and also they will come, they will be doing their activity. So if you look at, we do apply for mulching because of decreasing water loss due to evaporation. If the mulching cover is not there, lot of water will be evaporated, right, it will be acting as a barrier for the evaporation. And people says 1 kg of mulching absorbs around 4 liter of water due to dew, rain and irrigation. In the night time, some of the dew can form there, because there is a surface. So then it will again become wet. So you need not to give water that much, and even during rain season or the irrigation, when you put some water kind of things, it will be remain in the thing, it will not get evaporated. So reducing the weed growth by reducing amount of light reaching the soil, the sunlight will not be entering into, therefore that other plant will not really germinate nearby. And preventing soil erosion, soil erosion is a big problem because of due to use of these tractors and having a very high depth tillage, they are using a trailer. So that is making a deep, and then the soil erosion, more soils are coming, and then erosion happening. And whereas if we use our traditional plow, which is having a very small angle of depth, so that this will be reducing the erosion. So also mulching if you do, again soil erosion will be reduced drastically. Increasing the number of microorganisms in the top soil, because it helps in developing microorganisms, which is important for the growth of the plants, because it acts as their dead bodies and other things act as organic matter, it will be helpful for the growth of the plant. And adding nutrients to soil and improving soil structure, I have told you that this microorganism and organic matter will help. And how to use the mulch? Mulch basically can be applied to a warm or wet soil, that is important. It should not be applied for the dry soil. When the soil is dry, you should not put, because it will not help, and as already dry, it will remain dry, right. And the care should be taken to the thickness of mulch applied, and too thick mulch will prevent air flow and encourage the pests to grow, right. So beside this, this generally 10 centimeter being recommended for the 10 centimeter thick of mulching is being recommended for germination of planted seeds, but some places you may go for 10, particularly when you will get the land which is persistent with weeds, right. So therefore we may use that depending on that, but this is not a very what you call fixed number, you should use as a guideline, that is all. So with this I will stop over, we will be discussing more about manures and other things in the next lecture. Thank you very much.